Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Luke and this is my top 10 films of the year 2018. I'm also going to go over my list of honorable mentions and also a small list of movies that either I felt like I should have seen but I didn't, or movies that I actually really wanted to see but I didn't. The first movies I list off on this list are the ones I actually did want to see, and then the ones at the end are kind of the ones where I felt obligated to but I didn't actually see them. I have Burning, Roma, Blind Spotting, Cold War, Heart Beats Loud, If Beale Street Could Talk, Vice, and A Star Is Born. So now, my honorable mentions for the year 2018: Unsane, Disobedience, Shoplifters, Widows, Black Klansman, Searching, The Favorite, Avengers Infinity War, and Mom and Dad. So kicking off this list at my number 10 spot is a movie called Revenge, and it's exactly the way it sounds. It's a revenge story, and I'm always a sucker for a good revenge movie. It's basically about a woman getting back at the men who did her wrong on a vacation getaway, and it's just an incredibly violent, beautiful film. The cinematography and the landscape and just where they filmed this movie is gorgeous, and it's just super entertaining. It's full of energy, hyper violent. It's honestly just a really satisfying movie that at times made me feel kind of squeamish due to the excessive levels of violence and brutality, and I just feel like this is a film that is going to go down as a kind of a staple for over-the-top movies that I enjoy, and I'm really interested to see what the director of this film does later in her career, because this movie really promises great things that are to come from this filmmaker, and it's just a really exciting, goofy, and bizarre ride that I think everyone should check out if you're a fan of pretty violent action films. So coming in at my number 9 spot is Luca Guadagnino's remake of Suspiria, starring Tilda Swinton and Dakota Johnson. Now this film was really unique in that it kind of took the main idea of the original Suspiria film, and it really changed a lot of things about the story, and it added about an hour onto the runtime, which is kind of for better or for worse in this situation. It's broken up into about 4 or 5 acts, which I really like in a movie when they break it up for you like that. It makes every part feel significant in some way, and it gets me excited for what I'm about to see in that act. Tilda Swinton gives a powerhouse performance as always. She really impressed me in this movie, and there was something I learned about her performance that I didn't quite realize until I looked at the credits list at the end of the film. I don't want to spoil anything. Maybe you guys can tell by watching the movie if you do watch it, but there's something kind of unique about her performance that I found to be really surprising and really awesome. Dakota Johnson, she's a good actress. The 50 Shades movies aren't very good, but I enjoy watching her in most other things, especially Luca Guadagnino films like A Bigger Splash. It's hard to top the music of the original Suspiria because, like I mentioned in my previous video, the soundtrack for Suspiria 1977 is one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard. It's really wicked and really cool. But Tom York of basically my favorite band Radiohead recorded the score for this remake, and it's absolutely beautiful, and I think that the music goes really well with this movie, and I've been listening to the soundtrack ever since I saw the film. And yeah, just the way that this remake kind of flips the original on its head and is not afraid to change things and tell a different story. Coming in at number 8 is Mission Impossible Fallout. This movie is just non-stop. From the get-go, it just moves at such a fast, relentless pace. The action is completely, it took my breath away. I saw it in IMAX the first time I saw this film, and it was just incredible. The skydiving sequence, the motorcycles, unbelievable. I'd say that the dramatic moments in this film are a little bit too melodramatic for me, but the action honestly tops it. The main goal, the mission of this movie just takes this whole thing home. Tom Cruise,
Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall.
you know,
Sat on a wall.
congratulations. Tom Cruise, I commend you for your brilliance and your willingness to give the audience exactly what they deserve, because everything you did in this movie is something that I would never even consider doing myself, so props to you. It's essentially the perfect summer blockbuster. We were so blessed with this movie. Now coming in at my number 7 spot, we have Hereditary, directed by Ari Aster and starring Toni Collette. This film was just dreadful. Such a depressing, gut-wrenching experience watching this film in the theaters. Originally, when I saw this in theaters back in June, The theater I was in had the most obnoxious woman who was answering her phone the whole time, talking out loud to the guy she was with, apologizing to the theater for her phone going off, and she would just not shut the fuck up. She was so annoying, so she kind of took away from some of the intensity of Hereditary, but I was able to get past a lot of that while watching it. Definitely comparable to Rosemary's Baby, another film that just makes me feel terrible. This movie really works as a drama, and it does also really work as a satanic ritual horror film, and the performance in this movie are what really set it apart from most horror movies. They're really incredible. Toni Collette is obviously great. One of the kids from the Naked Brothers band, I can't remember his name right now. Gabriel Byrne. Really confident direction and just really eerie and washed out cinematography that really make this movie feel unique as a dramatic horror film. Hereditary is great. Number 6 is a film that I actually reviewed on this channel, that is Sorry to Bother You. Lakeith Stanfield is awesome. I am really excited to see anything that he's going to be in nowadays. This movie to me was just something completely different. Lots of really weird editing and transitions, and just a really unique and diverse cast of characters that made this movie really fun to watch. And just a story that is just so unlike anything else you'd see in a movie theater. This was Boots Riley's first film, and I certainly hope it's not his last, because I thought this film was constantly entertaining, pushed a lot of boundaries, and it was just a real riot to watch in the theaters. And I'm really excited to go back and watch it again sometime very soon. And Tessa Thompson's just great. Tessa Thompson is really rounding out to be one of my favorite actresses nowadays. Just the projects she's in, every single one to me is so consistent. Coming in at number 5 is, to me, what is one of the most intense and dramatic films of the year. That is Vox Lux, starring Natalie Portman. This movie was, right from the get-go, it just really grabbed my attention. It started with a school shooting, and from that point, the pace that this movie moves at, and it has a narration on top of it done by Willem Dafoe, which I really enjoyed. It just has this energy. And the director of this film, I'm not super familiar with any of his work, but it's his first film he directed, I believe. And something about the way that he handled this movie, there was just so much confidence in his vision. I felt like this movie was just really focused. I felt the direction was really focused, and it knew exactly what it wanted to be, and just the intensity and the way it told the story was unlike anything I had seen before. It goes down some pretty unexpected paths in the narration, and Jude Law as the manager in this movie doing a New York accent was freaking awesome. I really wish this movie could get some kind of awards buzz from the Academy for the Oscars, especially for Natalie Portman's performance. It probably won't, but Natalie Portman just knocked it out of the park again. Again, she's one of my favorite current actresses as well. But yeah, watching Vox Lux was just a really grand journey in my opinion. It just felt so rich and just so full of this negative energy that I just really enjoyed watching this movie, even though it is kind of like Hereditary, where it is a little bit strange and depressing. Definitely is a movie that made me feel something, so props to Vox Lux. Now in my number 4 spot comes another directorial debut from Jonah Hill. It is mid-90s, starring Sonny Suljic, if I'm pronouncing that name correctly, Lucas Hedges, Catherine Watterson, and a lot of other people who generally aren't really actors. They're just kind of personalities. This movie really took me by surprise. I was looking forward to it. I've liked Jonah Hill for many years, and I was wondering what he could do behind the camera and from a screenwriting standpoint. And what I love so much about mid-90s is just that all these characters feel so real. They're so natural on screen. And Lucas Hedges in this film is just horrifying. He is so aggressive, and it was sometimes a hard movie to watch because it goes to some pretty dark places, but it has a really great soundtrack that Jonah Hill handpicked himself, a lot of music that I actually listened to, so that kind of helped me appreciate it in different ways. And as a younger child actor right now, Sonny Suljic has really been impressing me. I loved him in The Killing of a Sacred Deer. I think that he really did a good job carrying this movie, being the center, the star of this film. I just felt like everything really came together in this movie, between the directing, the writing, the acting, the music, to make a really down-to-earth and emotional story about growing up in a household that isn't always pleasant. And I think that mid-90s is just one of the best movies of the year, honestly. In my number 3 spot is Alex Garland's Annihilation. When I saw this movie originally back in February of 2018, I was really disturbed by it. I was really impressed with it because coming off of Ex Machina, I don't know which expectations I had going into it, but I was expecting to see something that would blow my mind as much as Ex Machina did. And it certainly went in strange directions that I wouldn't have expected. And by the end of Annihilation, the first time I watched it, I wasn't sure exactly how to feel. I knew I had been affected by what I had watched. I knew that I really liked the concept behind everything. I thought that maybe some of the visuals could have been just a little bit better, honestly, when I first saw it. After rewatching it a second time and basically sitting on it for about a year now, it's definitely a sci-fi film that I think really stands on its own. It's very disturbing. It's mysterious and scary because it's about the unknown. People go into the shimmer and they never return, and the movie really is just a great mystery, and it has a lot of really shocking sequences, really great performances, starring Natalie Portman and Tessa Thompson, of course, a really good mix of different characters, and Oscar Isaac, I almost forgot he was in this movie. That was good stuff. I think that just some of the storytelling, you can kind of foresee what ends up happening in the movie based on scenes that happen throughout the movie. I think it takes away a little bit from the mystery, but overall, I think that Annihilation is just, it's a really abstract sci-fi horror movie. It makes me feel like, a little bit. So Annihilation, really good stuff. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's currently on Hulu. You can watch it there. Alright, so we're reaching the end of the list now. My number 2 film of the year is First Reformed, starring... I know it's starring Ethan Hawke. I wanted to say who was directing it too, though. The guy who wrote Taxi Driver. What's his damn name? Am I being such a... Let me remember it. It's like Rob or something. Fuck it. Paul Schrader. I was thinking Rob Schneider. So First Reformed is directed by... First Reformed is directed by Rob Schneider. So First Reformed stars Ethan Hawke, and it's directed and written by Paul Schrader, who is probably most famous for writing Taxi Driver, classic Scorsese film. And this film is about a priest sometime in the 2000s, I can't remember the exact time period, but he kind of becomes enthralled and obsessed with the environment and abuse to the environment and global warming, and it's a really bizarre movie. I think the theme of 2018 is movies with characters going through horrible things, kind of realistic situations. Honestly, Ethan Hawke I don't think has ever been better. This movie, he really owned this performance. This movie was just not at all what I expected it to be. Just by looking at the poster, you don't really know what you're going to get from it, and that's something I should mention. When I go into pretty much all these movies that I've listed off, I haven't seen the trailers for these movies, and a lot of times I don't even read the synopsis. Usually I have an idea of what they're about, but mostly I'm just going off of the posters, just so I'm surprised by what I see. And honestly, that's the best way to see a movie, because then you don't know what to expect. This movie is just a roller coaster of different emotions and motivations. The cinematography in this film was just stunning. I remember the shot where Ethan Hawke is walking around at sunrise, and it's just that deep purple sky. Lots of different kind of sub-stories converging on our main character to make this just a really stressful, kind of claustrophobic experience, and it just worked so well as a drama. It had some really bizarre, weird parts that might turn some people off. I was able to get behind it. I enjoyed those sequences, and I think that First Reformed is just a powerhouse of a movie. And now we are at my number 1 film of the entire year, and I have to say, when I was making this list, I knew this would be on the list, but I after just looking at all the movies and thinking about how I felt after watching all of them and just what I got out of these films, I'd have to say that number 1, The Sisters Brothers, was my favorite movie of the entire year. John C. Reilly in this film, to me, gives one of the most nuanced, best performances. His acting style really fit this character well. It was a really bittersweet and kind of sad movie, which I really wasn't expecting. I guess I was just kind of expecting like a funny, violent comedy western, which is kind of what it was, but it has a lot of heart behind it too. Joaquin Phoenix and John C. Reilly play brothers in this film, and I think that their relationship is one that I felt like I understood pretty well. It's two characters who kind of have different ideas about what they want to do in the near future, and that kind of creates a strain on their relationship. And I just wasn't expecting this film to go to the places that it did. Jake Gyllenhaal and Riz Ahmed are reunited again, like in Nightcrawler in this film, and they offer a lot. I love both of them as actors, and I just think this movie has a really good cast of guys that I've enjoyed watching over the years, and I think they all come together as these characters who have their differences. To me, it was just really heartfelt. It was shot really well. It had some exciting shootouts and action sequences, and it was really funny. I actually was laughing quite a bit during this movie, and it just moved at this really comfortable pace where things were able to sit with me for a while, and you didn't always know what the next part of the story was going to be. It could always go into a different direction, and that's another thing I really liked about the Sisters Brothers, is that to me it was just kind of unpredictable. Yeah, by the end of it I just felt like I really knew these characters, and I wish that I could see more of them, but their story is kind of over with this film. They don't need to do anymore, but I just felt very pleased and satisfied with the story that I was given. So yeah, those are my top 10 films of the year. I would love to see what all of you thought were some of the best films of 2018. Just let me know what you think. Let me know if you've seen these movies. If so, do you like them? Do you not like them? That's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. If you want more content like this, you can hit the subscribe button, and I will talk to all of you guys later.